Welcome, Broncos fans, one and all. What a strange few weeks we've had here. Sending out prayers to anyone affected by the coronavirus. Obviously, a very serious deal. Many people sitting at home, not knowing what to do, not being able to work. Very serious issues happening. But of course, the NFL moves on, and so will we. Now, as things get stranger and stranger, I've still had to work, so I haven't had that much time to put in YouTube videos. But I've obviously been following what the Broncos have been doing. And in general, I've been very pleased with it. I think they've made a couple very, very good moves, one or two good moves, and one move I'm really not sure about. Now, I imagine most of you can imagine which move that is that I'm not very sure about. That's the most recent one. That's the signing of Melvin Gordon, the running back who recently played with the LA Chargers. Now, I don't have a problem bringing in Melvin Gordon. I think he has the ability to be a very good running back, perhaps a great running back, but I don't really see that in him. I mean, he's been highly touted since he was drafted, but really he has the big name partly because he was drafted so high in the first round by LA, 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it is now. He scored a lot of touchdowns, and he's putting up decent numbers, but to sign the guy for $16 million, I think 13.5 guaranteed over 2 years, that's pretty high. I saw one report that I believe that's a top 5 running back salary in the NFL. Now, obviously, we all know that things are going to change when McCaffrey gets paid and others. So eventually, he'll probably end up, 9th, 10th, 11th. Is he worth that? We're really going to have to wait and see. I don't really want to judge this until I see him play. But, on the face of things, I don't love it. I just don't see why you spend that much money on any running back, period. Unless it's maybe McCaffrey. Le'Veon Bell back in the day, guys who are immediate game changers and in general don't get hurt. They're on the field a lot. Gordon, he's missed time. He's held out. He hasn't been that productive at times. He's kind of hot and cold. So I understand John Elway going out and getting a running back. They don't love Royce Freeman, which again is a missed draft pick by John Elway. And I think maybe John Elway has seen that he's really, really bad at drafting running backs. I think that's clear. And I think he sees that. He knows that. And so he said, hey, look, here's a guy who we know what we've got. He is a decent NFL running back. And we're going to pay him a little more than the market value or a little more than people think we should. And we're going to let him be our running back for 2 years. And if that means that they don't spend a high round draft pick on a running back, then, in the end, it's probably a pretty decent signing. But obviously, it all depends on how he performs. How is he going to perform behind a decent to bad offensive line? Does this mean Phillip Lindsay is pretty much out of favor? Does it mean Phillip Lindsay is not going to get very many touches? Obviously, Lindsay's going to lose touches, of course. And I've said several times before that it seems like Lindsay is not in favor with this Broncos team as much as he is with the fans. Now, maybe that's because he's not a very good pass protector. He's not a great receiving back. Even though that seemed like part of that was because of scheme, it seems like he's out of favor. So they're going to try to use him more like they used Austin Eckler in LA alongside Melvin Gordon. So Melvin Gordon is going to be your first and second down back or second and third down, whatever it is. And Lindsay's going to come in and it's kind of your scat back guy who, is going to create some mismatches. Do I love it? No, I don't. I don't hate it either. I think it's something we really have to wait and see. And I like the rest of the moves enough this offseason that it really does seem, again, like I've said before, John Elway has a plan this offseason, like he did when Peyton Manning signed. Now, again, obviously the difference being when Peyton Manning signed, lots and lots of players wanted to come to Denver. The best players wanted to come to Denver. Like many players are going to want to go to Tampa Bay. Now that Tom Brady has signed there, which I will do another mini podcast about that either today or tomorrow. But now that they have a young quarterback who looks like he can be something in a coaching staff that is solid and could be very good, that I think they are starting to see some guys signing here, but not great guys. There are a lot of guys who didn't come. Now, part of that was because Broncos didn't want to overspend on some guys, especially in the inside linebacker position, but also because, there are other teams that are still better looking than the Broncos. The Broncos aren't there yet. They're getting closer, I think. I think they're on the right way. But until we see that Drew Lock is a guy who can win in the NFL, that Vic Fangio is a guy who can win in the NFL and earn the respect of the league, players aren't going to just come here for the sake of being in Denver. And that being the case, the Broncos were smart and went and traded for a couple guys. I think their best two offseason moves, besides perhaps signing Justin Simmons to a franchise tag. Sorry. They signed him to a franchise tag. Obviously, that's a great move. He's probably the best safety in football, one of the best for sure. Besides that move, they went out and traded for A.J. Bouye and for Jarrell Casey. Those are two fantastic trades. I mean, I think they absolutely pulled the wool over the eyes of Tennessee and of Jacksonville, respectively. And so Elway, I think, has kind of found a way around free agency. He's gone and he's found guys that teams don't want to pay. They don't want to deal with any longer. And he said, hey, look, I'll give you a late round pick. We'll take on the salary. And now we have our solution, which means they get guys who are actually already on affordable contracts rather than having to sign a free agent and giving them more money. So I think it's been a very shrewd offseason by John Elway. I think he's made a couple of very nice moves. Glasgow coming in as an offensive lineman, I think it looks very decent. I think it's solid. It's not sexy, but it's good. And now Melvin Gordon. So I think that Elway has a plan. I think he wants to build this team around Vic Fangio and his defense, and he wants to run the ball and probably put Drew Lock in play action type scenarios. And I think that's smart. I think you want to let Drew Lock grow. You want to give him the best opportunity to have success. And the more success he has, the more success it will breed. I mean, success breeds success. And I think especially with young guys who have the confidence like Drew Lock, the more they win, the more they can find guys open and complete passes, the better and better they're going to get. And I think that's what John Elway sees. Now, I think it's very curious to see what they do in the draft. Obviously, that's what everyone's waiting to see, and we don't even know when the draft is going to be. Heck, now because of coronavirus, it may not be in April. Heck, it could be in May or June. So it could be a long time before we know what the Broncos' plan is and what they want to do. And I don't know if they have a plan. I think they still might be going BPA, best player available. And I think that's always the best case, in my opinion. Either you go, if you find a generational talent at 15, or you trade back and get a couple extra picks like they did to secure Drew Lock and Dalton Reisner. So I think that the offseason moves, I give, in general, as a total, I give this offseason so far, I give it around a B. I think it's been good. I think it's been very solid. I think there have been a couple very good moves and a couple, okay. Gordon, but it's been good. And I like the way they've approached it. It's been a very mature offseason for the Denver Broncos. And you see Vic Fangio, you see Pat Shurmur putting their stamps on this team. And that's extremely comforting to me. That's extremely comforting, as I've discussed before. And as I'll go over in the summer, if I have time, I will go over each team for the footballologist and go over what I think they will be, what I think their record will be in the 2020-2021 season, which I did this last season and actually really nailed a couple points very, very well. Looking at coaching, looking at injury concerns, looking at locker room issues. And when you look at these types of things, when you look at that side of the ball, you look at the human element, it's really fascinating. And obviously I was wrong on some things, but I was really dead right on a few things as well. When you bring in some stats, obviously, but also put in, the new coaching staff, how people feel. Do they have to learn new things? Drew Lock has to learn a new system. Now, I like Pat Shurmur. I like that they moved to Pat Shurmur in general. But this year may be a little rough to start because, again, Drew Lock has to learn. Now, last year, because of his injury, he got to learn on the sideline, and that helped. And he has the offseason now to learn, which was a good thing that they hired Pat Shurmur early on. So I think that Drew Lock seems like a guy who can learn, who can pick things up, and he will put in the work. And that being the case, I do like the Pat Shurmur hiring. And I do like that this is a team that is really, they're giving them a chance to gel. You can feel that the rebuild is really kind of in full bore, really. It's really in full motion. They have a lot of youngsters on this team, a lot of guys that aren't getting paid much, even though they're big-time contributors. And if Drew Lock can take the next step forward, you're looking at 2021, 2022 as being really, really good years for the Denver Broncos, or should be. Now, they're in a tough division. KC's going to be really tough to beat. I think LA, depending on their quarterback situation, is going to be interesting to say the least, and so is Vegas. And so it's going to be a tough division. The Broncos have a decent schedule. I think it's not as hard as this last year, but it's going to be decently hard, and I think it's going to be really curious to see what they're able to do. Obviously, we will have to see how that goes when the season starts, and of course, what else they do in the offseason. But so far, I would give it about a B. I like it. I don't love it, and we'll see if they are finished or if they have more things up their sleeve this offseason before or after the draft. I'm Kevin Gillikin. Please like, subscribe, push that little bell button so that you get any notifications when we publish videos. I will publish them whenever I have time, pretty much. If I'm ever quarantined, well, there will be much, much more time. At the moment, I'm still working full-time, or not full-time. I'm working 80% of the time and have a new baby, so life is pretty busy. But I'll still try to publish material as often as I can, and we'll see if the Skipper Dude can do so as well, especially if he also is quarantined here in the next few weeks. Everyone stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.